Hello, I'm Arno Kissel, and this is Brandon Italian, and thank you for joining us for another B2BFAB install video. Hello, I'm Arno Kissel with B2BFAB, and today we're going to be installing our camber correcting lift kit for the MQB platform. This kit provides an 1.5-inch lift and the necessary camber correction to keep the front alignment in spec. The kit consists of 2 front lift spacers that offset the front struts, and then our 2 rear spacers that go underneath the rear springs in the rear control arms. Here's a list of the tools needed for the install. Now, let's go ahead and put it on our vehicle.
First, remove the weather strip holding the wiper cowl to the rain tray. There's no need to remove the entire cowl. Just give yourself enough space to access the strut mount bolts. Loosen the 24mm 12-point outer axle bolt at the hub. Loosen the 3 13mm bolts securing the strut mount assembly to the strut tower. Next, using an M6 triple square and an 18mm wrench, remove the front sway bar end link from the strut. Then, using a 10mm socket, remove the bracket holding the brake hoses to the spindle. Remove the metal spring clip securing the brake hose to the body for additional maneuverability. With the axle bolt threaded halfway out, use a dead blow hammer to strike the head of the axle bolt, unseating the axle from the hub. Then remove the axle bolt at the wheel hub. Turn the suspension assembly outward so that the outer axle joint can be removed from the spindle towards the front of the vehicle. Take special care not to extend or telescope the front axles at the inner joint. Failure to do so could result in damage to the joint or boot. Using a 16mm socket, remove the lower ball joint nuts and separate the control arm from the ball joint studs. Now lower the spindle off the strut and remove the 13mm bolts at the top to remove the strut spring assembly. We recommend securing the spindle with a bungee cord to avoid damaging the brake hose. If you are replacing the strut mounts or bearings, a spring compressor tool will be required to relieve the spring tension for disassembly. Reassembly. With the strut assembly removed, fasten the lower B2BFAB spacer plate with the large center hole to the strut mount with a 6mm Allen and torque to 30 foot-pounds with provided hardware. Fasten the top spacer plate with the small center hole to the lower spacer plate and torque to spec with supplied hardware. Follow these steps in reverse for reassembly. Torque all bolts to the specs found in the torque spec section of the instructions. Now at the rear, if your vehicle is equipped with lower control arm covers, using a 10mm socket, remove the bolts securing the covers on the underside. On the top, remove the plastic push pins with a flathead screwdriver. Using a jack, support the rear control arm prior to the next steps. Be sure to allow enough space to relieve spring tension. Using a 13mm socket and wrench, remove the lower sway bar end link bolt from the control arm. With an 18mm socket and wrench, remove the lower shock hardware and the outer spindle nut and bolt. Carefully lower your jack to relieve the spring tension and remove the spring. With a flathead screwdriver, unclip the plastic retainer and remove the lower spring isolator pad. The plastic clip will not be reused. Install the rubber isolator pad on top of the B2BFAB rear lift spacer. Seat the rear spring onto the rubber isolator pad and place the entire assembly into the control arm. Then align the upper portion of the spring into place against the body. Carefully raise the lower control arm back into place and replace the lower shock bolt, control arm to spindle bolt, and rear sway bar end link bolt. Note: we do recommend using a floor jack, which allows you to maneuver the lower control arm into position to align the bolt holes. The use of a punch or screwdriver may also be helpful to align the bolt holes.
Thanks for following along for another B2BFAB install video. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and if you have any questions at all about anything you've seen here today or any of our products, please email us at sales@b2bfab.com.